After Roberta crashes and stumbles in the countryside, and also somehow ceases to be a blonde. She is rescued after fainting on the farm, nursed, and then she begins to support the farm and the house together with the man who saved her by the stern handsome Cooper. Meanwhile, Murphy, Doc, and the rest of the gang pick up survivors on their way to Namerica. But Murphy feels that Roberto is somewhere nearby and is determined to find her. So he goes his own way and tracks her down, eating zombie brains to determine her path. Doc and the rest of the group continue their mission. But heck, some of their new companions are acting a bit like zombies.
Namerica 452 miles. New Apocalypse 3 miles. I'll find Warren and meet you at Nameric.
Mrs. Magellicuddy eats zombie brains on the side of the road. It looks like she didn't just catch a little cold. When they finally get to Namerica, they find out what's going on. It turns out that Namerica has not yet become a legitimate state, only a few outposts are recruiting citizens. Who can be a citizen? Any creature that can speak, alive or dead, can become a citizen. It turned out that after the reboot and the Black Rain, some people turn into zombies, who are not only walking, but also talking. Although they retain their ability to manage and remain essentially themselves. To maintain this state, they need brains. If they don't get them, they turn into full-fledged zombies. 3 of their fellow travelers on this journey are actually talkers. Cookies, which may contain traces of brains, calm them down. We are going to a larger non-American outpost. Meanwhile, Roberta and her new friend Cooper are very cozy. They play happy house, cook together, work together, play dominoes, dance, sleep. It's practically a dream. Eventually, Robert and Cooper start running out of food. To solve this problem, they need to cultivate more land, which is impossible to do without a tractor, which Cooper does not have. However, Cooper says they can get it at Decker's farm, located about 10 miles away, which is just crawling with zombies. When they arrive there, Roberta finds out that Cooper has a secret. Before the Black Rain, his daughter Cloyd fell ill, and Sarah, his wife, could not see how she was suffering. While Cooper was looking for medicine, Sarah took Claudette to the barn, put her in the car and killed them both by poisoning with carbon monoxide. After Cooper explains about Robert, she offers to spare his family, and he agrees. After that, they burn the bodies of Claudie and Sarah at the stake. Murphy notices the smoke from the campfire and, exploring with his gut, literally goes to Cooper's farm. Roberto and Cooper keep a cozy fire going in their new farmhouse. It's like a dream, so we know it can't last long. And so it happens. Murphy shows up, and instead of inviting him into the house, Cooper decides to beat him up and locks him in the trunk of his car. When Roberta finds out about this, she is not convinced by Cooper's fears that she will leave him, and instead she beats him, saves Murphy and puts Cooper in the trunk. It is unknown what his fate will be, because at the moment when Murphy and Roberta leave for Namerica, zombies are heading towards him. It's reunion week for the gang when Doc, Tenka and Sergeant Lily soon welcome Murphy and Roberta to Alter. They are going to hold a vote on whether to form Namerica and create a new democracy out of survivors, including zombie talkers along with humans. Citizen Z is present there. Orette has an incomprehensible, and then a pleasant reunion with 10K. George, who knew Roberta back in the days of Black Summer, is fighting hard for a new society. She encourages everyone to vote and is clearly excited about the future. The general director of the city, Roman Estes, gives her the results of the vote so that she can read them out on the podium. Will a potential democracy vote for? The Hall of Alturans freezes with excitement, and when George begins to walk to the podium, an explosion occurs. There were some suspicious zombies walking around, especially the mysterious half-faced Lady Pandora. And of course, we still don't know the results of the vote. My ears are ringing, the dust is swirling, the voting delegates in Nameric have become victims of an explosion. Now there are a few dead and a few new zombies, and then other people's zombies have flooded in. It was a diversion. A hole appears in the fence, and the Altura community quickly goes into isolation mode. CEO Estes is quarantining the chatterboxes, and they're not giving them cookies. And this means that a bunch of hungry and angry zombies are sitting in the same cell. Murphy does not agree to quarantine, so he escapes by jumping into the back seat of a van driven by George's friend, Talker Dante, the #1 suspect in the bombing. Roberto, Citizen Z, Doc and George decide to break out of isolation and go to Pacifica in search of Dante and answers. Murphy has a stalker who turns out to be a friend offering to take him to a new place when he falls off Dante's van. And Ten-Ka, Sergeant Red and Sun Mei are fighting with hordes of zombies. When Ten gets bitten on the hand, Red cuts off that hand, and the sergeant makes the ultimate sacrifice, dying to save his friends. Experiencing the loss of Sergeant Lily, Ten-Ka and Red participate in a memorial ceremony in Alter. They perpetuate the memory of people with the help of a DNA wall. And while traveling to Pacifica, hunting for Lieutenant Dante, the team consisting of Roberta, Doc, Citizen Z and George meets several familiar faces. Pacifica, described as a paradise, turns out to be somewhat more conflicted than expected. A conflict is brewing in society because of the bombing. People are worried that the talkers will rebel and talk about quarantine. Everything repeats over and over again. Roberta and George make convincing arguments in favor of unity, and everyone agrees to sleep together. The next day in Pacifica there is an escape of chatterboxes and a zombie attack. Returning to Altura, Tenko worries that he will not be able to recover with a missing finger or hand, despite the support of the editor. And Roman Estes, the benevolent CEO, continues to behave very creepy. He is interested in Suanma's research. A new series of terrorist explosions thundered in Pacifica. The search for survivors leads to numerous victims and new speakers. As in the case of the terrorist attack in Alter, this explosion was followed by a wave of zombie attacks. Doc is sorting and figuring out what could be causing these explosions. Alturan mercenaries take the survivors with them. Conversations are prohibited. Citizen Z, Kaya, Jay-Z and Nano decide to return to Altura and see what they can find out. The Pacifica speakers remain and try to save books from the badly damaged library. Doc, Roberta, and George embark on an independent journey in search of Dante and the answers. 10K is dissatisfied with his hook hand. Wandering around Alter, he notices suspicious things. His search leads to the fact that he hides in a truck, which soon turns out to be several hungry zombies, which are then released in a ball, and Tenka gets out of the truck and looks dumbfounded. Doc, Roberta, and George follow in Talker's footsteps, looking for Dante and everything they manage to find. The path leads to Limbo. This place is a depraved hellhole filled with booze, gambling, talkers, mixed people, fights and much more. Murphy is in charge of this disgusting establishment. Murphy gives his buddies a tour of the casino floor and basement. In the underground, talkers give shelter to those who are hiding from justice. A mysterious driver throws up a new batch every day. Eddie is driving. After a lot of drinking and persuasion, Eddie agrees to bring Roberta and George to Dante. They bring him to Limbo to find Marjorie, his chatterbox wife. But, of course, they are followed by a group of Alturan mercenaries who want to bring Dante back and judge him. Meanwhile, Tenka continues his lonely wanderings and finally meets with the team. Doc and George return to Altura to follow Dante's trial. They want to make sure he gets fair treatment from these mercenaries. About Murphy, Roberto, Eddie and Tenka decide to find that mysterious source without skits and find out why they don't come anymore. Doc and George quickly run into trouble on the road.
You didn't break it, but you definitely dislocated it. Careful, George. Where are you going? You should take that leg off.
Their journey gets weird and involves unconventional pain management and long conversations about America's founding fathers, the Constitution and Bill of Rights. And all this is on the way to save Dante and build America. George and Doc find the wrecked car and traces of Dante. Following his discarded sunglasses and a trail of blood, she finds Dante's slashed, twisted body in the trash, and George finishes him off. Meanwhile, a shootout takes place at the biscuit factory. It turns out that Mambi Zombie was preparing the goods together with her son Z Brothers. But because of the sabotage, everything is not going so smoothly. It doesn't matter, Operation Bitamark is ready to help. Eddie, Roberta, and Tenka continue to track the source of the brain cookie that makes chatterboxes talk. How do these treats prevent them from turning into full-fledged zombies and why are they no longer produced? They reach the core. The plan is to talk to the locals and find out what is included in these biscuits. But the chatterers are not in the mood for a conversation. They are hungry and teeming. George and Doc rescue them, and they all go to a farm on the outskirts of town in search of shelter. A local resident who is neither a zombie nor a speaker, Charlie tells where the gray matter from his head came from. Roberta comforts George, who is tormented by guilt over Dante's terrible death. Roberta vows to help George find the culprits and bring them to justice. Eddie finds Finn's boyfriend in the closet and threatens him. It turns out that they know each other and are together. Finn has a bullet wound. Finn has been cured, and he has the answers. He is the only surviving farmer who was shot when he tried to help transport several speakers to Limbo. Charlie voluntarily gave up tiny pieces of his brain to buy time. A mysterious talking Pandora follows a gang in farm clothes and seems to be directing the destruction. They use Charlie as bait to get the speakers to come to the farmhouse. Charlie lures them with the help of Sriracha. On his naked head, hidden brains stick out. To Pandora's horror, they subdue the speakers, leaving them alive. Then 10K Doc take her for a predatory chatterbox and lead her to the pen with the others, where Pandora secretly shares a biscuit with a henchman, and Charlie finally sacrifices himself. Roberta, Eddie, Doc, George and 10 are about to put the water back on the farm when Finn gives a distress signal. Returning to the locked talkers, he rushes at them, and they run away. The team, with the exception of Doc and 10K, rushes back, but Finn has lost a lot of blood from a gunshot wound and quickly loses consciousness. Finn dies and becomes a speaker. Eddie decides to stay with him, take the speakers to Limbo and meet the gang later. Doc and 10K are waiting for the rest of the group to join them on their way to the Water Keepers. 10K is not feeling very well, and his crippled arm looks pretty bad. Doc wonders where the rest of the team is and is nervous about the Water Keepers. The arrow that pierced the trees hits the Doc. Doc and 10K are captured by mysterious Water Keepers. Roberto and George free them, but then they are all captured. Kurok, who shared with Doc an unforgettable healing experience in the Grand Canyon, is one of the group. The trigger explains to the group that they are not stopping the flow of water. Instead, the dam is being sabotaged, just like the explosions in Alchua and Pacifica. Father Kurok is in charge of the dam and is working on its repair, and Yala helps 10K choose a new prosthesis for his missing arm. 10K spots a stranger on the outskirts of the group's camp and chases him to the building where the dam is located. Krug tells his father that he wants them all to leave this place. Her father wants to stay, fight saboteurs and repair the dam. Her father gets into a fight with a saboteur and loses it. Doc, Roberto, and Kurok decide to go on a trip under the influence of drugs to get a spiritual experience and get into the dam on an alternative plane. They want to get into the dam, find out what's going on, and stop the attack. The saboteur knocks out 10K and the ghostly Doc can't reach him to help him wake up. His touch goes through him. Roberta's guide shows her how to sneak onto the dam. She and George rush back to break in there and stop the stranger. George finds and fights the alien, the saboteur chatterbox. It's a tough fight, but they defended the dam. Kurok's father comes to his senses and manages to save the dam with 10K. Everyone says goodbye and Roberta's group leaves. The episode begins with the mine's garbage dump, where the speakers are forced to work collecting old electronics.
The party has begun. Our time has come. It's time to get free. Let's get our freedom back.
Roberto, George, Doc and 10 are conducting their own investigation. Their trail led here, where they can find the source of the mysterious ingredient for cookies. There are chatterboxes commanded by guys from the security department, and a masked figure sneaking around and killing everything in its path. The speaker eats some electronics and lets out puffs of smoke. It seems to clear his mind. George decides to impersonate the speaker to find out what's going on. Roberta falls through a pile of garbage in a landfill deep into the mine, where several dismembered people are lying, a saw smeared with blood and much more. George falls into the mine with a group of speakers. Roberta hears footsteps and sees a whole new horror. A human nightmare and a robot that seems to be the source of all the murders in the mine. Doc and Tenka find the junkyard control room and put on protective suits to merge with the security brothers. Doc manages to keep his cover and even behave like a formidable taskmaster, despite the fact that he introduced himself as Siegfried, not Karoe. George finds Roberta in the mine, and together they realize that the talking and killing nightmare are consuming lithium from old electronics, and it may be the secret ingredient without whales.
Come on, run guys, hurry up. Come on, hurry up. This way.
The group reunites and realizes that they need to get out of this dump and return to Limbo. They decide to hijack the workers' truck and get out of there. Doc demonstrates serious truck driving skills and everyone is fighting hard. They lose this battle when the buzz of the saw is heard. A cyber nightmare monster cuts people to pieces and it doesn't care who is on whose side. After his battery runs out, the Cyberman decides to crush himself. It turns out that he is a former speaker who went down into the mine and then everything went completely wrong. After he has turned into a rectangle, his remains are eaten by his comrades in conversation. The team decides to deliver lithium and the chatterboxes to Limbo, stopping at Hackerton along the way. Roberta and George go to Hackerville. They need help to get into Estes' laptop and find out exactly what is going on in Alter.
Don't forget to look under me.
Citizen Z is back.
Telecommunications Center. To get inside, you need to know the following number.
After using clever hacker codes for the door, which still won't work, George opens it, and they begin searching the corridors for signs of life. Citizen Z introduces himself to the Ghost King and then punches him in the face. Obviously, the Ghost King was teasing Kaya. The four hackers make a deal to access Estes' laptop in exchange for future immunity if Marika's no ever really forms. Back in Limbo, Doc and Tenka delivered Murphy and Eddie a batch of battery-licking chatterboxes. Without cookies, lithium can calm them down, and they, as it turned out, have 2 bricks. Estes is at Murphy's door looking for stalkers.
Today we are closing. This is what's left. There were a lot of talkers here. Who said that? Here we have an advanced girl, boom. Just look at what a beauty.
Back in Altura, Kai communicates with Z and hackers and secretly tries to gain access to Estes' laptop.
Her rear entrance unit. Understood.
In the midst of a poker game and fun, Estes receives a signal that the security system has been breached. He interrupts the meeting to return empty-handed. Along the way, he sends several Zs in the direction of Hackerville, from which they fight off with the help of drones.
Damn it.
SD is playing a dirty trick. He lures the speaker's child and then uses him to find the rest of the speakers in Limbo.
What will happen to them? Are you sure you don't want to go to Altura?
In Alter, Sun Mei is in her lab looking for a way to help zombies when Red brings her sick friend Becky.
What do you want? Brains.
She turns from a speaker into a zombie. They decide to try new drugs on her, but it doesn't help.
She's dying anew. Hold her. I can't take it anymore.
Murphy decides to go with a truck full of talkers to where Estes is taking them.
I'll have mercy on you.
Kai finds incriminating materials on Estes' laptop, something about ultimate mercy.
The last mercy.
What does the last mercy mean?
Murphy was captured by Estes along with a group of talkers. He has put them all in jail and does not allow them to vote in the big elections in Alter. His henchmen put them all away, but Murphy has another idea, and he and the gang are planning an uprising. Citizen Z, George and Roberto make their way back to the territory of Altura. Kai's hacking skills turn out to be very useful and allow them to enter.
Martial law. Estesabot was replaced.
Besides, she has the best hiding place. She's hiding inside a soda vending machine. Great job. Citizen Z joins her, and they proceed to break in to help the rest of the team make their way to the Altura campus. George and Roberta change their camouflage gear to their signature look immediately after arriving. It's like they're trying to get caught. And in the end they get caught. The creepy half-faced Pandora finds Estes' henchmen hacked to death by Murphy's talkers. And the talkers themselves are gone. She runs into Murphy, and she is unhappy.
I can eat your brains and find out everything I need to know. Estes arrested your pathetic friends.
Pandora makes some rough kisses with Estes and then is responsible for getting information about the speakers from George. Estes confronts Roberta George, telling them that he plans to become the crazy overlord of Alturan while he keeps them in jail for treason. Then he separates them. After that, the torture begins under the direction of Pandora in order to obtain information. Pandora is passionate about it, and it's pretty disgusting.
Don't. You're a beast.
Doc and Ten are working with Eddie to create a hidden camp for chatterboxes. They are hiding under tents and planning something. They have lithium as a cookie substitute. In Alturan's lab, Sun Mei is working hard to find a cure for a virus that turns people into zombies. Red helps her, and it looks like they've finally made a breakthrough. She found a cure. Now we need to take it out of the lab. Pandora's torture of George gets worse and worse, and she happily confesses that she killed Dante. She becomes a real supervillain. At the same time, she says how much she hates speakers, although she herself is such. This, of course, is difficult to understand. Murphy gets to the shelter of the speakers, and he and Eddie have a pleasant moment of rapprochement. Sun Mei is caught by Estes when she tried to sneak away from him.
An unsuccessful sample. What are you doing?
Collecting testimony.
And Estes punishes her by infecting her with a zombie virus.
In which test tube is the vaccine?
I won't tell you.
Red can use her antidote to cure her. But everything is not very good, as she is mortally wounded. Citizen Z finds Roberta and they rescue George. Then they head to Song Mei and Ed. Song Mei asks them to take her brain to create more antidotes against the zombie virus. She knows she can't survive and wants to help humanity. Estes and the teams are unhappy when they find out what they've done.
Find them all and kill them.
Roberta and George sneak out of the building with her brain. And the rebellion of the talkers, led by Murphy and Eddie, is moving to Altura. It's voting day in Altur. Red, George, and Robert smuggle Song Mei's brain out of the lab. Her brain will be used to create an antidote to the zombie virus. Red goes to hide the brains, and Roberta tells her to give them to Murphy if something goes wrong. Evil Estes and his creepy girlfriend Pandora are making insidious plans. She shows them where George says the speakers are hiding during her harrowing interrogation. And then they have another nasty cupcake next to Song Mei's corpse. Roberta and George make their way around the Altura campus in search of Kai and Citizen Z. Suddenly Pandora, Estes and various henchmen are there, blowing up a soda machine. The machine in which the hackers' hideout was located. But there is also good news, they manage to escape. Roberta, George and Citizen Z secretly check the voter turnout. The numbers look pretty low. And Roberta misses one familiar face, Martin Cooper. Her dreamy handsome man from the farmhouse is here to vote. Doc and Tenka begin to implement their plan. Back at the camp, Doc sets up some switches and hides in the bunker. Just where George said they'd be, Estes henchmen are rolling up with guns at the ready and planning to finish everyone off. But this is just the Doc of a pretend army of talkers.
Where are the talkers?
When they are about to deal with Doc, Tenka sneaks up from the ridge and rescues him.
8,999.
The duo of Doc and Tenka rushes off, while the henchmen come out and start attacking each other. Murphy and Eddie bring the speakers to the gates of Altura to vote. Pandora and Estes meet them there, but know they can't fight because their militia is now missing. George and Roberta challenge them, Pandora pulls out a gun, and she and Estes run away. Roberta pursues Pandora and finds Cooper. Murphy leaves a gun on him, although Roberta is glad to see him. She runs away, continuing to chase Pandora, but loses her and then finds George. Then they get to Estes, who dominates some kind of supercharged jacuzzi, which he calls a powerful battery. Estes admits that he staged the attack in order to starve the chatterboxes and use all the lithium to power the Altura. He needs it for security, and talkers for him are just collateral damage, a sacrifice that he is ready to make. And now he has sweetly confessed live on camera, thanks to Citizen Z. And Pandora is not too pleased with the way he spoke the slip. Pandora, in a stunning new outfit of half a face, sabotages the battery and Estes has to escape. It has something to do with pumps trying to keep lithium from getting oxygen and prevent an explosion. Meanwhile, George and Pandora are fighting. Estes gets horrendous burns trying to stop the explosion. George finally defeats Pandora. The battery was repaired, and then Estes shoots Roberta at point-blank range many times. And she's fine. There is no blood, but how? Cooper shows up when Roberta wakes up. He tells her that he is out of custody, and that he and Murphy are fine now, and tells him why he wanted to talk to Roberta. It turns out that they're on the farm. When he first operated on her, Roberta died on the table, and then she came back. Is she a talker? Damn the apocalypse. Cooper informs her that she is expected at his farm at any time, and says goodbye to her. George, in the style of Sergeant Pepper, addresses a crowd of people and speakers. She stands for democracy, talks about lost and found friends, and is optimistic about the future. Murphy goes outside with Song May's brains. He tries them to figure out what to do next, and smiles.